It kind of stormed a little bit. Might get some cool lightning in the background if it's not done.
We went to Hilton Head when the boys were way younger, and there was a hurricane that came through. The coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. My dad and I went down onto the beach during it, and I have a video of me leaning into the wind, and it's holding me up at a good freaking angle too. It's so cool, dude. Now, I paid for it because I literally got sand blasted. My legs were bleeding, but it was worth it.
Hello, welcome to Show Boys. We have a fun episode for you guys tonight. A rare, but always exciting Chad and Mike duo episode. We're going to just be doing a good old What's Playing episode, something we haven't done for
quite some time.
It's been a very long time. And so basically we have almost half a year's worth of games to talk about. So that should be exciting. But before we get into that, of course, got to shout out to your patrons, Tim B, Yusuf H, and honorary member Joe C. Thank you guys for your support. All of our other patrons, you guys are awesome. Make sure if you're not a patron, go check it out. Patreon.com/showboyspodcast. We are in the midst of recording a new Patreon series that will run through probably September. We're going to be playing through the Pale Beyond and just talking about our experience week by week. We recorded the first episode earlier this week. It's a good time. The game is interesting, very stressful, and visually gorgeous. And I'm very excited for the rest of this playthrough. So if you're not a patron, go check it out. Patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Sign up if you feel so kind to do. And we greatly appreciate it. And you get a bunch of other perks, early access to episodes, unedited episodes, all that fun stuff. Go check it out. Tell a friend. Chad, how you doing tonight, dude?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Just came back from baseball game, feeling good. Vacation's right around the corner, so I'm super amped. How are you?
Pretty good. It's been a normal week, just working and playing some games. All right, well, I'm interested first to hear what you've been playing, Chad. So why don't you start us off tonight?
Yes, I cannot remember if I talked about this one on the podcast or not. So if I did, I apologize, but I'm going to talk about it again. And it's Persona 3 Reload. I feel like I haven't had a What's Playing episode since maybe February. So yeah, I'm sure I touched on it briefly, so I won't spend too much time on it. I just want to say that I am like chef's kiss with what they did with this game, man. It is, so I pitched this game in our like remake episode, which was probably very early on for us, and they took that idea. Obviously they didn't take it from me, right? But they took the idea that I pitched and then blew it out of the water. Working with, Persona 5 graphics, some Persona 5 gameplay elements. They took the grindiness out of the original title. The way the game works basically is you play through a year, and at each full moon is when the story beats happen. So you get lost in the cycle in the original where it's like very grindy, very monotonous until the full moon comes, and then you get some story beats. You get voice acting, which is a big thing, and no voice acting anywhere else. I mean, you're reading everything else outside of those full moon scenes. So you get stuck in this cycle of like, cannot wait to get to the full moon so we can get some story stuff and I can stop reading for 5 minutes. I think I just think they did a freaking phenomenal job with it. It is basically fully voiced, which for a Persona game is massive. None of them have voiced social links, which are kind of your hangout sessions with your buddies. This is all fully voiced. So it was really cool. It was, even though I played this game before, it felt totally fresh. Like this is nice. Through and through a ground up remake, not just a slap on filter remaster. So I gotta give him props, and I gotta talk about it again because I can't remember if how deep I dove into this. I'll probably get flack for this, but Persona games are handheld games to me, dude. Like when you got a 150-hour game, you need to have the ability to play it anywhere. Right. So it was mandatory for me that this got verified on the Steam Deck, so thankfully it did. And yeah, man, I know a lot of people are a little upset about some of the things they did with the game, not putting in the Fez content. So Persona 3 Reload came out maybe like '08, and then a remaster, I guess, or a complete edition came out that added a pretty significant amount of stuff into the game. And they left all that stuff out of Reload and just did the base game. So a lot of people were upset. There's no female protagonist, which is
Oh,
from the portable release, which is
yeah.
the PSP release of the game.
It's not very 2024 of them.
Yeah, yeah. So, but they are adding in a Fez content. It is coming as DLC, so that stuff is coming. It's not like they just abandoned it completely. No word on the female protagonist yet. I've always thought I don't necessarily like playing as female in games, just because I can't relate obviously to female stuff that well. But I would like to see how the story pans out in this game from the female perspective, and it changes a lot in the game as well. It changes who you can date, who you can interact with as well, because you can't, this is kind of the first iteration of the modern Persona games that we have now. So there's no male like social links. So all the male characters in 3 you can't really interact with. So they threw in Reload these kind of like character episodes where they're basically social links. You don't really rank them up or anything, but they're like character things with the male characters to add to flesh it out a little bit more. And then that combined with some other stuff they added in, it just made the cycle of waiting till that full moon non-existent really, because you were always getting story stuff.
And I'll just go ahead and knock out, like I feel like every time we talk, we just do what's playing. You say something about Persona and I say something about Pokemon.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna
Yeah,
get
it's
mine
true.
out of the way, and then we can get into the other stuff that people probably didn't know or maybe expect me to be playing.
Yeah.
But let's see. Since we've done one of these, we've had several seasons of Pokeboys. So played and beaten Pokemon Bushido, amazing fan game. Go play that. Play season 4 just wrapped, so we played through another great fan game called Pokemon Infinity. It was super fun. We got to actually interview the creator of that game twice. So we had one interview with him before the season started, and then we just interviewed him again last week after we all beat the game. So
cool, man.
those were really, really cool conversations, getting to hear like what all went into making this game and like the inspirations behind it. And then after we beat it, to like dissect the story with the person who wrote the story. That's always fun. So go check that out. They had both. Okay, so both those fan games are very different from each other. They're very different stylistically. Bushido's set in Japan. You're in the samurai clans. It's very like feudal Japan. Very cool, very interesting story. The story is broken down into chapters. So it's more story focused than like catching Pokemon and getting gym badges focused, which is really cool. Infinity, while having a great story, the story is much in the backseat, and it plays more like a traditional Pokemon game where you're just running around catching stuff, getting gym badges, stuff like that. Infinity has so many like new fake Pokemon that they added to the game, and their designs are so cool. They look amazing. They're strong. In my playthrough, I used an entire team of new fake Pokemon, and I could probably replay the game like 4 more times and have teams of all fake Pokemon that are different than the ones I've already used. So
yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, that's always really cool when you get to. That's why I love the fan game scene so much. Is these people are so. I mean, you've experienced it with like Sekiro mods.
Yeah,
You
man.
know, the fans of these games are so creative, and they have stories they want to tell within these worlds too. And then on top of that, with Pokemon, people have amazing ideas for new Pokemon. I mean, the stuff that people like, I love just watching videos on YouTube of people who just like conceptually create new regions and new Pokemon. It never makes it into a game, maybe, but
Yeah.
like they'll be like, here's a picture of a Pokemon I drew, and this is what it does and why it's this way. People are just so creative. So season 4 is done. We're playing and beginning to record season 5, which we're out of the fan game circuit and back into the challenge circuit. So our friend Kumino, one of the stream team members, you've seen him on a few of these episodes. He picked the challenge for season 5, and for Pokemon fans, this will make sense. If you're not a Pokemon fan, you might not know what I'm talking about. But what we did with this, much like season 2 of Pokeboys, where we did a fantasy football style draft and picked which Pokemon types we were allowed to use in our playthrough, we did the same idea, but instead of types, we picked generations. So, like Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow, that's generation 1. So we did that where we each have 2 generations that we can use Pokemon from, and we can't use any of the other Pokemon. And at the end of each leg of the season, we're doing a thing called a cage match. There's 4 of us playing this right now. At the end of each leg, we come together and do a 2v2 battle, and the loser gets a Pokemon from their team killed, and they can't use them anymore.
Does the
And
winner get to select the Pokemon?
yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yep.
Yeah.
So the winner selects which Pokemon on the opponent's team dies, and then the winners also get like another perk. And each cage match, the teams are selected by random, like between the hosts. So we don't know, it just the pairing keeps switching. We've done the first leg, and it was very fun and intense and sad for some people. But yeah, so those have been my Pokemon adventures. I have some other things we'll get into, but I want to hear from you again, Chad, before I go.
Yeah. So I'm going to go over to Rise of the Ronin,
Okay.
which I
I know
have.
you've been excited about talking about this for a while.
I have been. I've been aching for somewhere to talk about this. Yeah. So anyway, Rise of the Ronin came out in March. Team Ninja game, their first true open world samurai title, and I was on this game from the very first trailer, dude. I was like, I cannot wait for this. And I eat up any samurai stuff in general, and I'll certainly eat up any open world samurai stuff. And this one's so unique, dude, because it combines Team Ninja's grueling combat from their previous like Neo games and like a Assassin's Creed, basically. And when I first started playing this game, and really even halfway into playing through this, I'm like, dude, this is Assassin's Creed Japan before Assassin's Creed Japan comes out. Like, this is exactly what it is. It reminds me of it. The combat obviously is significantly better in this game than majority of Assassin's Creed games, in my opinion. But that's just the feeling it has. Like, it's just a massive world to get lost in, a bunch of stuff to do in that world, and then sprinkled in with really difficult combat in some of these boss fights that you get into. And it's also cool from the point of view that it takes place like in the very late 1800s. So like 1853, I think, is when you're playing, kind of the end of the samurai, when everything's changing, guns are coming in, there's flooding into Japan, everything's changing. It's kind of Japan's revolution, if you will. And this is kind of my hang up with Ghost of Tsushima, where it's a samurai game, yes, but it is not in the time era that I think of when I think of samurai, which is this time frame, or what Assassin's Creed is doing in the Sengoku area, which is like 1500s. But it's cool now because now looking at it, we're going to have Ghost of Tsushima, which is very early samurai, and then the 1500s with Assassin's Creed, which is very different feeling, even though it's still samurai, and then the 1800s in Rise of the Ronin, which is also very different feeling from all the other stuff. So it's cool that we're going to have 3 massive open worlds, basically with every big era of samurai stuff. So that's awesome. But this game, man, yeah, it's just so good. And I definitely have complaints with it. I think the open world is lacking a little bit, and it's lacking in kind of random encounters in the world. Like most of the stuff that you're doing is around like camps that you have to clear out. The missions that you do in the game are like instant missions. So you go to a location and then you load into a level, and then it's
Mm,
basically like a Neo level that you're going through, which is
mm,
weird. I know a lot of people had a big problem with that. I didn't. I thought it was awesome because it gives you a break, and it also allows the developers to build a more personal level in these instances versus just doing it in the open world. And you can
right.
tell a little bit that Team Ninja struggled moving into a game this massive. Like there are some performance hiccups, especially right around launch. There was a little bit of issues, but nothing that took me out of the game. I put 120 or 40 hours into this game, and
Dang.
yeah, I mean it's massive. I think I finished my first playthrough at like 80 hours. Okay. And I really took my time. I mean, I took my time through and
Dang.
through. And the way that it shapes out is it is open world, but there are 3 different sections that are like giant open world. So you have Yokohama, which is where you start, which is really cool because that's the like really modern city where there's like
Mhm.
modern buildings, a lot of foreigners walking around, foreign weapons, foreign soldiers. It's very different feeling. And then you go to Edo, which is very old school feudal Japan. Like it's not
Mhm.
revolutionized too much. Like there's a couple sections. And then Kyoto, which is the kind of capital of the samurai in the game. And so it's not a giant open world where you can like go from Yokohama all the way to Kyoto. It's Yokohama, and then once you move the story, you go to Edo. Then once you move the story, you go to Kyoto. And it's cool. I like the way they did it. I would I have preferred me be able to travel the entire world? Yes, I would have. But these sections of the map, they all feel radically different. The fights that you do in them feel radically different. But the story stuff is what really sticks out here to me. I mean, there is a plethora of characters and really, really good characters and a lot of historical characters in this game too. And there's almost a persona style bond system with these characters where you can hang out with them and give them gifts and you raise their bonds and you get different stances and different weapons and all kinds of stuff. And it's like almost obnoxious how many of these characters there are, dude. There's like, it seems like there's like 60 of them that you can go
Holy
through
cow.
and covers everything from American, Matthew Perry, who was an American Navy sailor that came to
Mm.
Japan, all the way through old school samurai to, you know, anything you can think of. You have these characters you can get through. So the story stuff in this is by far, in my opinion, significantly better than Ghost of Tsushima will ever dream of being.
Oh, wow.
Just because there's so much political intrigue going on, and there's sides you can take through a lot of this stuff. So you have like the pro shogunate faction, which is trying to fight for the old school samurai ways, and then the anti shogunate faction that wants to overthrow that feudal system. And you can kind of pick and choose, and the missions pan out differently depending on what side you're on. So it's really cool. The replay value is huge on it. Some of them are like attacking an inn. Okay. There's like a guy in the inn that the shogunate wants. So you can either attack it as the shogunate or defend it as the anti shogunate. And you can play
Mm.
both sides of it. And you can go back. There's kind of like a tree system where you can go back and play and see how
Mm.
it pans out. So it's like on a map. It's really, really cool.
Oh, nice.
Um, but what I didn't realize is I really did take my time playing this game. But when you finish it, you unlock midnight mode, it's called, which is like a more challenging version of the game. And you start it basically from the beginning. What sucked me in though is that unlocks like new outfits and new missions. Like it unlocks a lot of stuff. I was like, dang, dude,
Mm.
I should have maybe rushed through it and got to the midnight and then continued. So that's why my
Mm.
playthrough ended up being north of 140 hours.
Dang.
Then on top of all that, I want to talk about the combat a little bit because the combat in this game is like insanely deep. There's probably 10 different weapons you can choose from. So this is something, if you go back, I'll try to post it in the Discord if I can find it. I actually looked for it while I was playing this game, but I wrote an article which was like 10 things we want from a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. And this thing basically hits all 10 of them, dude. Like better story, better characters, more weapons to play with, mainland Japan to play around in. But the combat, so there's like 10 different weapons, right? But then within each weapon, there are different stances for those weapons. And obviously, some of them have like 3 stances, but like the katana has like 10 stances. And the thing about the stances are it radically changes the fight style and the way you fight. So there is like an immense amount of freedom as far as building your custom loadout for whatever kind of different weapons you want to use, whatever kind of different stances within those weapons that you want to use. So there are times where I would fight with a katana, change the stance, and it's radically different, dude. Like you have to fight totally different. But then you go to like a Chinese style sword, which is like crouching tiger, hidden dragon style wild fighting, and it's so different from the katana. Yeah, dude, it's just so cool, man. Like there's just an immense amount of deepness to the combat. And then I made like a slight adjustment to the controls. So there is a parry system in this game, but the developer controls you get at the beginning, it's tied to triangle. And I was not really a fan of that in the slightest bit. So I actually changed it to L1, which is Sekiro. And I don't know if Ghost of Tsushima is L1. I think it is too. And it made it feel like Sekiro, dude. Like that L1 button,
nice.
like the deflecting. So it became like an open world Sekiro game, which is another thing I've talked about on the podcast that I really want. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this game kind of flew under the radar. I don't think a lot of people knew about it. It got average reviews, like 8s. Some places gave it 9s. Some places gave it lower, obviously. But if you're into samurai stuff, dude, you have absolutely got to play this game without a doubt. And just the amount of freedom it gives you, especially with the combat, it's unmatched, even by Sekiro standards. It's unmatched.
That's awesome. And it's wild to hear you. Well, it's not crazy to hear you like heap so much praise on it, but at the same time, it kind of is with how much you really enjoyed Ghost and Sekiro.
Yeah,
so that's a good sign for those of you who are not familiar. That's a great sign.
And I think a big part of it is really that the time era, that the Boshin War is just very intriguing, dude, because there's just so many elements that went into that war in reality. And on top of that, big Japanese characters that are from reality are in this game. Now, are they probably fictionalized, right? I'm sure they are, but it's just cool that they're in the game and they're actual characters.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the biggest draw to me is it feels undeniably Japanese because it came from Team Ninja, who is undeniably a Japanese studio. And you can tell the love they put into this game.
That's awesome.
And the love for the history that they were retelling. But the other cool thing about Rise of the Ronin is you're playing actual big historical events, which are these instance missions, and you can actually change the outcomes from reality, what actually happened in reality.
Okay.
Ryomo Sakamoto, who was a samurai that fought for the anti-shogunate, died and added an attack in an inn. They basically ambushed him and killed him. So that mission is in the game, and you can actually save him. And then he becomes he lives on, and they actually like tell his story, like what he does after.
Nice. If he had alternate survived. History.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I like that stuff.
So yeah, definitely cool. If you're even remotely into to samurai stuff, like go get this game, dude. Like you probably already have it, but if you don't, go get it.
So the game I'm most excited and have been dying to talk about is Dave the Diver. This game, like, completely took me by surprise. I had just, gotten off the back of beating Dredge at the end of last year, early this year. Um, and Dredge was like a Lovecraftian fishing sim, essentially. Not a game that I normally play. I don't know which game came out first, but they kind of came out like staggered or like right around the same time. And I was like, okay, I like Dredge. Dave the Diver seems cool. It's another like fishing game, but instead of like from a boat, you dive and you're like fishing with a harpoon. And then that's part of the gameplay. And that during the day and then at night, you run a sushi bar using all the stuff that you caught during the day, to make your sushi.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that seems kind of cool. I don't know if I would like necessarily like that or not, but uh then the free Dredge and Dave the Diver DLC was announced for Dave the Diver. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I kind of want to see what this is about. And ended up picking up Dave the Diver pretty cheap on sale. Gave it a shot. At first, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it, but I kept playing. And oh my gosh, like I'm 40 hours into the game. I've beat the story. There's a story. And I'm still like going back to play just to fish and run my restaurant because it's so freaking fun.
Yeah.
The game loop changed probably like every 2 or 3 hours. They introduced a new mechanic that I was like, I didn't know I needed that, but now I need that.
Yeah.
Like I was not aware in any way, shape, or form that this mechanic existed. I didn't think that it was necessary
But
because
now
I
you
was
can't live
having a
without
ton
it.
of fun like
Yeah.
playing with this gameplay loop, and then you throw this little new mechanic in, and it's amazing. Like I'm not exaggerating. Every like 2 3 hours, I was caught off guard by something new they introduced, and they did that the entire game, not just like the front half or first like quarter of the game where they usually pepper in all the mechanics. Like
Right.
this was happening all the way to the end of the game, and I was like, holy crap, there is so much to do in this dumb like fishing restaurant management sim.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just say it. I played a lot while I'm pooping, guys. Okay, I got a Steam Deck. It's what it's for.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
take a little bathroom trip, make a dive, and then there you go. I'm satisfied, and it's just the perfect game to sink like 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes into at a time and put down and feel like satisfied, but you still kind of want a little more.
Yeah.
Similar to how Hades was. I think honestly, if it wasn't for the Steam Deck, I probably wouldn't have liked Dave the Diver as much. Same with Hades, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. But being the portability, man, it just
It's
adds a
huge.
whole new level to
Yeah.
gaming.
Yeah.
um, so that probably was a big portion of this. But like, not only were the gameplay mechanics fun, incredibly deep for the type of game it is, no pun intended. The characters are hysterical, and like multiple times I laughed out loud at like cutscenes because again, like everything about this game caught me completely off guard.
Yeah.
You can like upgrade your menu items to make them, make you more money and stuff like that. And the first time I upgraded one, there's this crazy cutscene with the chef and like he's doing all this stuff and it's very like anime and samurai like. And I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is amazing, but like what is this? And like each character has something like that. And it was great. The DLC with Dredge executed phenomenally when it does, when those moments in the game pop up, you take control of your boat almost exactly like you would if you were playing Dredge. And it's essentially playing Dredge in Dave the Diver. You
That's
go
cool.
to a spot and then you're able to dive into that spot, and then all the fish are kind of like, mutated like Lovecraftian fish. It's really cool.
Yeah.
They the It was free, which was awesome. And then they just released another DLC that was also free, and it is Godzilla themed. So
Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
like, bro,
Dude, yeah,
this
they're
is
like
amazing.
made for you. Yeah.
Yes. So I downloaded that and I just started the Godzilla content yesterday, and ag- again, was blown away. Like I'm diving down trying to find Godzilla in the water here, and like had to fight this huge giant like kaiju lobster thing, which was cool. I come up, back to the boat, and I wasn't able to defeat the kaiju in the water, so it's like coming up to the surface and going towards our restaurant, and then all of a sudden Godzilla comes up out of the water, and I'm like, "This is epic! This is gonna be a great cutscene." Except it wasn't a cutscene, and I got to play as Godzilla and
Oh
and fight
man.
this lobster, and I was like,
Uh,
"What is going on? This is so cool." So even after I beat the game, I'm still being shocked and awed at every corner's turn. So I'll mark this spot as a spoiler. If you're interested in Dave the Diver and you want to experience the game as green as possible, just mute for like 5 or 10 minutes. But so like the main loop, you dive down, you fish, come up to the surface. The fishing is like almost, I guess, roguelite Hades like, where every time you go down, the ocean is different, right? So you have a different level. You have an oxygen level that acts as your health, and if you like take damage from fish or objects and stuff and run out of oxygen, you get saved and brought back up to the surface, and you can only take one thing that you looted while you're down there with you. Everything else you lose. So it has a cool, almost Hades like gameplay loop to it. You can do 2 dives during the day, and then at night you come up, and then it's a restaurant management sim. You go in, you hire staff to work at the sushi bar. You use all of the stuff that you caught in the ocean for your menu, and you can unlock new menu item recipes. You can upgrade your menu items. Uh, you can like rank up. It's called My Cooksta, which is like an Instagram page, and you like level up your Cooksta ranking. There are VIP guests that come to your restaurant that you have to like curate special menu items for to impress them, and then so those are the two like main mechanics. And then all of a sudden you run into like a mermaid in the water, and you find out like that's tied to the story. And then a couple of chapters later you go to their village, which is an entirely new map, like new region. And in that region they have vendors, they have like a game corner that has like seahorse racing you can do, like a bunch of mini games you can play. They have their own currency, and then a couple chapters later, there's another region through the Sea Peoples region that's like under a giant glacier. And so you have those. Then for the restaurant part, you at one point unlock a farm where you can grow rice and other vegetables that you can use for your sushi. So then now it's like a farming sim where you have to go in, you can like fertilize your fields to produce more or faster or keep the health of your soil up. If you don't go and check regularly, weeds will grow over, like basically ruin one of the crops you planted. It'll turn into weeds, so you have to go pick the weeds. Like you have to water the seeds and stuff, and then
yeah.
so now it's got this farming sim mechanic to it. And then a few chapters later, the same thing happens in the mermaid village, where you can have an underwater farm with like kelp and like seaweed
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then a couple chapters later, on your farm, now you can have a chicken farm and you get eggs from your chickens, and like it's just it just keeps going. And
It
then
seems it seems ridiculously deep, dude,
yeah,
for little indie game.
yeah, it's crazy. And
But I guess
then
that's why it's on the top freaking charts every time that I look on there, dude. It's always
yeah,
on there. Yeah.
and then on top of that, there's boss fights.
Oh,
So it's just
it's
it's a
so cool,
surprise that
dude.
there's like a deep.
Yeah.
I hate that we keep saying deep, because we're diving in the depths
Yeah.
of the ocean, but like there's 8 different weapons you can have along with your harpoon gun, and then those 8 weapons have several different like element variants, like fire, ice, poison, shock, and on top of that, you can upgrade the levels and like have them like make them have even more unique properties to it. So there's like a weapon crafting and upgrading system. It's just there's so much to do, and I didn't expect any of
Yeah.
it. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is amazing, and now I can't stop playing it.
Sometimes you need these like little indie games to just get lost in for a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, you don't always have to have the big AAA, stunningly beautiful, big, massive open world, crazy
Hmm.
story. Sometimes you need these just little simple,
Yeah.
the Pale Beyond, those kind of
So
games.
good. Yeah, I love them. They're fun. I do love supporting those small studios with these really interesting ideas. What else you been
So
playing?
moving on to the kind of indie side, Roman and I have been looking for a game to play together. And we have been playing. Well, we kind of stopped, and we'll get into that. We downloaded Cuphead,
Oh, okay.
which is a indie kind of side-scrolling shooter style game.
Hmm.
Super, super awesome, like design and artwork and idea. It's like a old 30s cartoon,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. It looks
It
amazing.
does. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. But my God, is it ridiculously difficult, dude. And I kind of pride myself on being good at old school side scrolling shooters. Like I grew up playing those games. I grew up playing Mega Man. I'm very, very good at Mega Man. This game absolutely decimates me, bro. Absolutely decimates me. And there are
Yeah.
like multiple times where like there's so much stuff going on the screen. Like I feel like I'm gonna have a seizure, dude. Like there's just too much going on. Like I can't. There's just way too much going on at any given point,
Yeah.
and it is unforgivingly difficult,
Hmm.
even at two players. So that you can play the game single player all the way through, or you can play it two player. And the two player thing is cool because if somebody dies, you kind of turn into a ghost and you start floating up the screen, but the other player can jump and do a parry on you to revive you, and then you have one
Mm.
more heart. But you have to time it right, and there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, like I said. So you have to find the right timing, and if you go up off the screen, that's it.
Mhm.
You're done. You can't come back. And Roman, man, has saved us multiple times with parries, rescuing me, and also just manhandling the boss after I die, where he just solos it and takes it over.
Dang.
But yeah, it's just it's ridiculously difficult, even for somebody that grew up playing really difficult games like this. It
Mhm.
does have like the way it's set up is it's basically all boss fights, and I think the
Mhm.
game started maybe entirely boss fights, and people were saying we would like levels to run through instead of just boss fights. So they have the boss fights, and then they also have these run and gun sections, which are like levels that you can go through. And you
Mhm.
need to go through these levels because that's the only way that you get gold coins, which allows you to buy upgrades for your character, new weapons, new parry systems, more hearts, all kinds of stuff you can buy in this little pig shop, which is super cool. It's like a big buff pig, and he's like smoking a cigar and he sells stuff. But you have to do these levels, and these levels, dude, are like insanely difficult. Like it's almost unfairly difficult, these run and gun levels. And it's hard for two people to do them because of the way that the scrolling works on the two people. If one person is all the way on the left side of the screen, you can't advance any further. So it's
Mhm.
really run and gun, and really you really want to be running because there's just so much stuff coming at you. If you just stand there and shoot at it,
Yeah.
it just keeps respawning. So I actually, Roman hates it. Anytime we go to one of these things in the map, I'm like, I need a new weapon. I need coins. He's like, no way. We're not doing the running guns. I hate the running guns. No way. Let's just go do a boss fight. I'm like, we get nothing for the boss fights, dude. Like, we need this
Yeah.
stuff. So he actually, uh, I actually hooked us up because when he was at school, I did all the run and gun levels by myself. And then you can
Oh, there
actually
you go.
add you can add the second character in at the very end of the map where there's nothing going on, and then they get the coins as well. So I would beat the level, get to the
Oh,
end, add him in, advance, and then we would get the coins. So I ended up having like 25 coins or something ridiculous. Uh,
nice.
but yeah, the boss fights are really really cool. Super stylized. It actually has a Netflix series too, animated
Mhm.
series that I didn't know they made. So yeah, super cool little game. It's just like we're taking a break because it's like really hard. It's really difficult, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think you probably can't see it back there. Oh yeah, you see Cuphead back there.
Oh, yeah.
See little Cuphead right there. So
Yeah, there he
I
is.
bought us both plushies, and
Nice.
he sleeps with the character that he plays in the game, and then I have the character that I play in the game on my
Nice.
dresser.
Yeah, that's also been on my wish list for a very long time. I remember watching Civ stream that. I don't know if I'll get it
Yeah,
because I don't know if my I don't know if I can handle it in my old age. I don't know if the thumbs
it's tough,
are
man.
twitchy as they
It
used to be.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely works out your Twitch
Yeah,
muscles for sure.
yeah. So I'll just blow through uh, the rest of my list because I haven't really played enough to talk too much, like too in depth about these games. Some of the other games that I've started and do intend on finishing at some point would be King Arthur: A Knight's Tale. This is a turn-based tactics game, um, you know, set in the King Arthur like legend story, but with a unique twist on it. Unfortunately, I'm not super familiar with the King Arthur legend other than the character of, there's a character named King Arthur and he's part of some fabled story. So I don't know exactly like the big twists that the big, creative liberties they took with this. But the story is interesting. The gameplay is pretty fun. It came out in 2022, but like graphically it reminds me of like an early 2000s like almost Diablo-esque like look with a little more polish. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but it has that very old school like RPG look to it and feel to it. The battles are cool. The world is interesting. There's like a little almost Darkest Dungeon like town building aspect to it too. So outside of all the missions, you go back to the castle and you can like pay money and resources to add on or repair portions of the castle that open up new things that you can upgrade. And like you recruit heroes to your round table and you can assign them to different parts of the castle to get different perks and stuff. Your characters can get injured and like obviously you lose your health, but if they lose too much health, they'll suffer like an actual injury. So you have to like put them in the med bay for like a mission or two to get them to heal up. Permadeath is a thing. So if one of your characters die, they're dead. They go find them in the graveyard in your castle, stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. I've played through Act One. I think there's 3 acts, so slowly, steadily making my way through it. It's cool. There's a what do you call this system? But it's basically like you can make your character good or bad, and depending on
Yeah, it's
actions you do
like a
during the game.
Paragon system from Mass
There you
Effect.
go. Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah,
That's what I'm looking for. And there's kind of like it's not really a skill tree per se, but depending on the choices you make and the way that the main character's morality is forming, you can unlock certain things. So you could be. It's also like the 4 quadrant system. So you could be like rightful, lawful good, chaotic good, chaotic evil, lawful evil. And each
gotcha.
quarter has different there are characters in each quarter that you can only unlock by progressing so far into that morality, different moves and things like that. It's really interesting and fun to do a mission probably takes like 30 to 45 minutes. Like they're sizable. The battles are, not like super overwhelmingly in depth, but there's enough there to, rack up the hours, which is probably why I haven't finished this quite yet. I do plan on finishing it, and they just released, I guess it would be a sequel to it. It's called King Arthur Legion 9, I think. Something like that. It's Roman numerals, and I suck at that. It's 1x. I'm assuming it's like 9,
One
much
X
like
would be
4 is
9. Yeah.
1v. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so I've been enjoying that. I started up finally after having this game in my Steam library for who knows how long. Thank you, Lico, for gifting this to me so long ago. But God of War 2018, decided on a whim to fire that up. It's been fun. Only a couple hours into that. I'll find it in the library real quick and tell you
How
exactly how
about
many
that
hours into
freaking
it.
opening boss fight though?
With like the big troll thingy, or with
No,
like the dude who comes
the
to your house.
tattooed dude. Yeah,
Uh,
dude.
yeah,
So
that
cool.
was pretty wild. I've played for
Yeah.
5 hours, so not too far into it. Enjoyed it. This is the only God of War game I've ever played. Never played the old hack and slash ones. This is pretty cool. But I oftentimes find myself exploring too much and trying to find all the collectibles and not actually
Yeah.
progressing the game. So,
Yeah.
it is what it
Yeah,
is.
that's a game I need to get back to. I really want to play Ragnarok too, but I mean,
Mm,
Bio and I kind of line up on this. I don't know what it is about that game. Like, I know that game is freaking stellar. I just
mhm.
can't get into it, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. Because the story is super cool. The graphics are awesome. The combat's fun. There's
Mhm.
nothing cooler than throwing that freaking axe and clawing
Dude,
it
I was
back.
just
Just
about to
the
say that. Yeah.
so good, dude.
The
Like that's
sound is great.
your wood chopping, yeah, your wood
Mhm.
chopping sound. That's my wood chopping sound. Is calling that freaking axe back. It's so
Dude,
cool.
it is.
So I
And
definitely need to get back to it for sure.
yeah, it's cool. Like, I mean, it's very The Last of Us. Like, you're using what's his name? I I wanted to call him Atreyu, but
Trey
that's a
Atreus. Yeah.
that's an early 2000s screamo band.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, using him to like navigate the little exploration puzzles, using your axe to like throw and stick into something so you can open a door.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I I need to finish it. What my time availability to play games sitting here at my desk on my PC is pretty limited because it's basically like at this time of night, after like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and by that
Yeah.
time I'm old, so I get really tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yep.
I can't sit here. So I've been wanting to try this on the Steam Deck because it's verified, I believe. It's
Yeah, I
definitely
think it is.
playable, but I just have Dave the Diver open. And the great thing about the Steam Deck is, just pause it and then put it to sleep and then wake it up and you're right in the middle of where you left off. And then the third game, very early on into this, thanks to Fallout, watching the series on Prime and doing the episode on that, instead of playing Fallout, I was like, you know what? This makes me want to play Wasteland 2, um, a basically Big Lots Fallout turn-based tactics game. I
Big
got
lots fall out.
it's probably, I mean, the original Wasteland came out like a bazillion years ago. Uh, so maybe Wasteland has a bigger following than I'm aware of, but the last time I played this game was March of 2016 when I got it in a Humble Bundle like thing, and I enjoyed it. But back then, I like had no idea how to play turn-based tactics games because that's not something I was used to.
Yeah.
Um, so watching Fallout and then my love for turn-based tactics games now is like I need to revisit this, play it because I also have Wasteland 3, which is a newer, sequel that has co-op and stuff. And Dad and I have kicked around the idea of playing Wasteland 3 together, and I was like, just do Wasteland 2. So I went in, I made some characters, based off of Showboys. And I think I posted them somewhere in Discord. And for some reason, I think it was like the perk that I picked for Jordan. His character loaded in a full clown costume, and I was like, this could not be more accurate. This is amazing.
Fitting.
Yeah,
Fitting.
perfect. And then I've only played it for like an hour or so, barely have started the first mission, so not much to report on there. But it's a very long game, so maybe I'll finish it at some point before my time here on Earth ends, but we'll see. The last two are games, multiplayer games I've dabbled in with some friends and some people from the Showboys community. That being Helldivers 2 and Pal World. Fun games, more fun when you're playing with people, and just they had their hook in me for a short time where I was playing a lot with some friends, and the hook has since been released. So
yeah.
And we'll see how often I revisit those games. But that's rounding out my list. Do you have anything else on yours?
Yeah, I have one more. I am super interested in Helldivers just because I'm like I absolutely love Starship Troopers, and that game is through and through should have been a Starship Troopers game.
So much fun running around with Dad and Joe and Civ and others, just squishing bugs, dude. It's so good.
Yeah,
it is so good.
I watched the guys at work play it, and it definitely looks really, really fun. I am going to talk about Call of Duty for my final game here.
Whoa,
which is rare.
This is a rare
left
field,
rare occurrence here. So obviously, I'm on a military kick here lately. There's really only one military game that you can really go to nowadays, and that's Call of Duty. And I will say I downloaded Modern Warfare, the reboot, and 2 and 3, and played the campaigns through them. And 3 sucks. I'm not going to lie. That's the newest one. I think the campaign was rushed and kind of awful. But 2 and the Modern Warfare 2019 reboot are so good, dude. And it's cool because I think they're kind of like looking at how these guys actually fight in reality now. It's not like bombs and shit exploding and trucks running off the road with people in the back shooting. In Modern Warfare, the reboot of 2019, there are 2 missions in there. One's called Clean House and the other one's called Wolf's Den. And this is like slow room clearing missions, like building clearing missions. They are so freaking fun, dude. And I've played them on repeat for like the past 3 weeks. And and I hope that, and it doesn't seem like they are, because these missions got a lot of praise for being ultra realistic. This is the way these guys actually do things. It's not running and screaming and explosions and everything. It's very slow. It's very quiet. And just seeing just in the missions, kind of like the realities of war, like there are like some breakneck decisions you need to make. Like, is the mother running to the crib to get the baby, or is there a gun in there? And you don't know, and you have to like make those decisions. It's just ultra realistic. I hope that Call of Duty just does a freaking campaign that is all this stuff, because it is so cool. So I played through all the campaigns. Like I said, 1 and 2 are great. 3 is meh, in my opinion. But then I have played a colossal amount of multiplayer.
Say what? What?
Yeah, colossal amount of multiplayer. Dude. Yeah.
What? Why am I the only one here hearing?
Totally. Totally has its hooks in me. Nobody does multiplayer shooters like Call of Duty, in my opinion. These ones are phenomenal. Like, the guns just feel great. The maps are cool. I could do without like people talking. Like, I don't want to hear you talking. It's just my opinion. I spend a majority of my time at the beginning of the game, instead of like selecting what class I'm going to get, muting everybody. Yeah, because if you want to listen to music while you're playing Call of Duty, I don't really give a shit. That's your thing. That's fine. But mute your damn mic. I don't want to
listen to your music.
I don't want to listen to your music through your shitty mic. So I was playing the other day, and these two kids were talking on the other team, and they like, "Where are you from?" The one kid was like, "Pennsylvania." He's like, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "Syria." And the kid was like, "Dude, aren't they doing this like right outside your door right now?" And it was like,
Oh
"Oh my gosh, bro!"
no.
Like, no. So it is rather entertaining to hear some people talking on there, but for the vast majority of it, it's just like mute. I
Yeah.
don't play with anybody. I just play by myself, and yeah, I'm having a blast, dude. I'm
Yeah.
having the time of my life. So.
Well, since you like multiplayer games now and it's official, just buy Helldivers because I think it's cross platform between PlayStation and PC.
Yeah, I think it is.
So we could play together.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take it a little one rung at a time here, okay? One rung at a time.
Let's not get carried
Let's not
away.
get carried away. I do have to comment on the way you download these Call of Duty games now because it's absolutely infuriating. You go to the PlayStation Store, hit download on the game, which for quite literally every other game I've ever downloaded downloads the fucking game and then you can play it. Not Call of Duty. So it takes 2 hours to downloads, but then you can't play anything because there are separate packs for everything. So they have like a campaign pack, spec ops pack, multiplayer pack, but then there's multiple of them. So you get like campaign pack 1, 2, 3, and then you'll miss that down here there's a multiplayer and campaign pack that you also need. So I spent like 2 weeks being like, what? I've downloaded every campaign pack. The only thing on my 1 terabyte PlayStation 5 right now is Call of Duty. I can't download anything else. Literally, I'm out of space. And the new season like came out today or yesterday. So I got on to play multiplayer today and needed 24 gigs of new storage to download this new season, or I can't play multiplayer. So I like had to delete like Disney Plus and shit, like stuff I shouldn't have to delete. Now, granted, I do have 3 Call of Duty games on my thing, and really Modern Warfare 2019 is only on there so I can replay those badass missions.
But
so
3 games take up 1 terabyte. That's
dude,
ridiculous.
It's insane, dude.
That's crazy.
Like just the campaign stuff on 2019, no multiplayer stuff, no spec up, just the campaign is 149 gigs. 149 gigs, bro, for a freaking 4-hour, 6-hour campaign. Like, you're kidding me. What is going on?
Before we go, we mentioned this at the top, but we are also playing through The Pale Beyond. It's been a good time so far. The first Patreon episode has been recorded, and that was also a good time. Lots of laughs, lots of craziness happening there. Check it out, The Pale Beyond. And then go to patreon.com/showboys and sign up to be a patron, and you can play along with us and listen to our hectic adventures in The Pale Beyond. And, you could even, I think you can comment on videos on Patreon. I don't know. I haven't been on there very much. But yeah, if any of you are playing along, I'd love to hear your thoughts of The Pale Beyond. With that being said, make sure you subscribe here. And we'll see you next week where we'll be talking about something, I'm sure. And all that fun stuff. See ya. Just realized that I don't know what we're talking about next week, so it's hard to plug.
Yeah.